Hey, good morning, friends and adventurers. Welcome back to your side quest contact. Now, I know it's been a minute since we put up a video, and the reason is because I have been all in on setting up this game I have going. I had three people come in and book the session for session zero. Still have three spots open, called Dragon's Refuge, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to talk about how I set up the session zero, and also the thinking and writing processes I was going through as I was putting this together, this game together. So, and as you can see here, yeah, I did pull heavily from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons because this is a dragon-centric world, hence the name of the title. It's a world where Bahamut and Tiamat have come together and have decided, all of the worlds, all of our worlds that our children fight on usually wind up being overrun by fiends and aberrations. Our children and the mortal race, children being the chromatic and metallic dragons, our children and the mortal races of this world constantly reach out and make deals with fiends, get wrapped up in cults of aberrations from the far realm, and before we know it, even our children, the dragons are threatened. The worlds get overrun, hordes of demons summoned on by mortals, aberrations coming from the far realm and taking over minds, and yeah, it's not a good thing. So Bahamut and Tiamat, they said, hey, we're eternal enemies, but for a moment, let's think about the survival of dragonkind as a whole, and we want a place where dragonkind can exist free of those fiends and abominations. Oh, I'm sorry, fiends and aberrations. Now, dragons are dragons. They're going to act like dragons, and they accept that and they acknowledge that. So we have chromatics, we have metallics, but we also have gems, and they come up with a role called the Arbiter, which is a great worm amethyst dragon. Bahamut and Tiamat say, hey, can you watch over this world? Watch over this world. Let the dragons be dragons, but make sure they or no one else are getting into fiends and aberrations, trying to make deals with fiends and aberrations. No lower plane deities aside from Tiamat can get worship here. So that's your role, Great Worm Amethyst Arbiter. So the arbiter's like, oh, okay, that's fine. I could accept this cause. That's fine. I like that. And he comes up with a group of deputies, adult gem dragons of each type, and they are in the world monitoring regions, making sure that the dragons and the mortal races of that region are not getting into fiends and aberrations. And they can do whatever they want, as far as how they live. Chromatic dragons are going to do what chromatic dragons do. Metallic dragons are going to do what metallic dragons do. But we want to make sure while they're doing those things, they're not like reaching out to fiend lords or great old ones and causing and bringing them into the world. So that's kind of a little overview of what the world itself is about. So as I designed this first region, this is where we put our, this is the starting point of our player characters. I decided I had to come up with what dragon is going to be the native dragon, the local dragon for where the player characters live. So I decided to go with the gems, the neutrals. I figured one of the chromatics or the metallics were a little too extreme on the sides of good and evil, so wanted a neutral dragon. And because I wanted somewhere to advance as far as like what powered levels the players can are exposed to, I started with the lower of the dragons, which are the crystal dragons. The adult crystal dragon has the lowest challenge rating of the other gem dragons, but still that's nothing to nothing to sneeze at. But so we have an adult crystal dragon who kind of lives up in this area here, and our player characters live here in this town called Sarin. And I got my inspiration from, and I made this map from Incarnate. I have a subscription there, and it's a really cool tool. A lot of you can a lot of cool tools that are available to you. I should say. So we got this region map, and my inspiration for this was I did a search for the most northern town in on Earth, right? What's the most northern human settlement on Earth? And it turned out to be this small town way, 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 way up in Scandinavia. The name is I'm not going to try. It's hard to pronounce. So if you want to look it up, look it up. Most northern town in on Earth. And so I took that town and the region around it, very mountainy, very rocky, very lots of inlets and grottos and peninsulas and such. And I decided that yeah, that sounds looks like a good spot. And the reason I chose like a northern spot is because that's what a crystal dragon likes. They like Arctic regions. They like cold Arctic mountainous regions. So that's the dragon I'm going with. That's the region I'm going with. So here's what I came up with. Now our dragon lives up here in this northern region here, and our players live in this town. We have some fishing villages. That's all these are, just like fishing. They go out into the shining sea and fish. Um, let's see, we have a dwarven settlement here, dwarven city, Frostforge. And this is actually what puts this town on the map because they're getting the trade from Frostforge and they're able to send those goods out into the sea to the lands and the regions down south. So that's what's kind of setting this town up. They're like, it's a big deal kind of. So getting the players involved with this, the three we got so far, still got three spots open, and this is the way I would get into the three new players involved as well. We would say that, let me go to the town map. And again, this was also made on Incarnate. So I asked the players because what I wanted to try to do is get away from a standard hook, travel, battle, resolve formula. Right? You take the hook. The hook tells you you got to go somewhere. You got to kill something somewhere. You got to take their stuff, and then you got to use that stuff to go find something more powerful to kill. I wanted to kind of get away from that model. And so what I had our players do is they came up with their characters, and I'm going to kind of talk about this here. I asked them because remember they're a presence in the town. They start off with a bump in their abilities. They start with a bump in their treasure, their starting gold. Now they're still first level, but still like when if you're a first level character in a world in a city full of just non-level NPCs, and you have higher stats and you have more gold, well that makes you a more prominent person in the town. So the first thing I asked them, once they made their character sheets, I said, I want you to, we put them on the map, and I said, I want you to think of, what is a day in your life like? Assuming everything goes smooth, everything goes fine, nothing crazy happenings, nothing crazy happens. What's a normal day for you to look like? So let me show this here. So we have our three characters so far: Len, our kobold rogue; Mari, our dwarf cleric; and Panvi, our shifter monk. So started off with Lynn, and I said, what's your day like? And she says she wants to run an antique shop. She kind of works for the local rackets. She does some loan sharking. She does she's a information broker. She because she's small and unnoticeable and quiet, she can hang around, and people may not notice she's around while they're talking and kind of spilling secrets. So she engages in that behavior. So I said, all right, that sounds great. And then we went back to our map, and I said, where do you want your shop? Like, which of these buildings here would be your antique shop? And I think in the VTT I haven't marked, but I think it was like one of these over here somewhere, like maybe this one. So she's got an antique shop, and with her, and she also lives there, right? Above, like I'm thinking on the second floor will be like her apartment. And then, she comes downstairs, opens shop. People come in, pay off debts. And she also kind of works with the criminal element. Some of the criminals here who have to pay for the right to be criminals in this city, they pay her their cut. Now she in turn collects the tribute, and then kicks it up to the guy who runs who does run the rackets, who happens to be here, Theodore Stoutfeast, male dwarf. Oh, sorry, I want to get rid of that. Now, I'm going to come back to this sheet here in a second here, but kind of finishing up where how we set up the players. So we got our kobold rogue who owns an antique shop and does rogue stuff, kind of like mobster stuff here in this area. And this area here, this is big fishing area. All these docks, these are big fishing docks. They bring in their catches. We got markets for the fish in the houses and the bars and the such that are in that region. So so once we got that, we moved on to our dwarf Mari. She's a cleric of Moradin, and I had already designed an alkaloid type character for our clergy, but she's a like a PC first level character, which is more powerful than an alkalite. I decided, what, you're gonna be the head of this church. You're the head of the Church of Moradin here, and this alkalite I had designed is kind of like your helper. And again, I asked Mari, the dwarven cleric, what is a day in your life like? And she kind of told us that she's working on a project. There are some forges in the church that the faithful can use. Usually, when they hammer something out in one of these forges, they leave it behind as an offering or a gift to the church. And I asked her, well, "Are you working on something in particular?" She says, "Yeah, I'm working on crafting a suit of armor." Okay, okay, so that's kind of like what you're working on in the background. And she says throughout her day, she will also go, to like the room where, sick and injured are being held, and she will tend to them as best she can, ministering and applying, medicines and healings and such to the sick and wounded who come to her temple. And she also prepares and gives services for the faithful. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking like the faithful of Morden in this town is not exclusive to dwarves. Anyone who wields a hammer and hits an anvil as a their living might be coming to this temple to offer prayers, to offer tribute, to pray for Morden's help and guidance as they go about doing smithing stuff. So we got a good idea of what our cleric does and our rogue does in this town, just kind of as their daily routine. Again, we're assuming they're not on an adventure. There's no army of whatever attacking. It's just a normal town up way up north who takes in trade from a dwarven city. And then lastly, for the third player who booked and showed up, we have a shifter monk who calls himself Panvi. Now, a monk is one of the triumvirates here in this town. Messias, she's one of our Eladrin, and she's a monk. And they kind of right over here. What they do is they help, the poor, the people who are having a hard time. They can kind of they can train them, they can teach them, they can house and feed them temporarily while they're training and teaching. And hopefully, the idea is to kind of get them out and earning a at least a decent living again. That could feed them and their family. And what our shifter monk Panvi, what a day in his life is like. Well, he says that during the day, in the early part of the day, he attends to his duties and his chores at the monastery, and then at night he likes to try to sneak out, and he goes to the bars, and he gets into fights, like not just bar brawls, but fight club fights down in the basement. People are taking bets, those types of fights. So he says he likes to, those usually happen like around this area in the the Fisher area. And he says when he's done, fighting, he likes to drink and party until he passes out wherever he happens to be. And then when the sun rises, he tries to get back to the temple here as quietly as he can. Doesn't want, and so far he believes, no one's discovered his antics. So we have three player characters and their daily lives. And again, it's because they're kind of a presence in the town. They're a known presence. They've already kind of heard of each other. Like they know who the dwarf cleric who runs the church is. They know of a lizard-like shifter fighter who goes to the bars and usually wins. He's a first level monk, and most of these people are either commoners. You might get a bandit or something like an NPC level. But yeah, he usually wins, so that he's known for that. Anyone who works in the criminal area knows that Lynn, our kobold, is the one to go to if you want to know something. She's also the one to go to if you gotta, make you gotta pay your kick up to the boss. So yeah, we have people who are kind of known in the city. Well, not the city, but the town, I should say. And then once we kind of got that, square, that took a little bit, maybe 30, 45 minutes, but it's good conversation. It's kind of getting them into their character. What is it you do? Where do you live? What's your day like? And then we went through that, and I said, okay, now to kind of get into story. So I want you to think about your day, and I want you to think about three things you want to accomplish during your day, and the three skills that you would roll to make those happen. They cannot be the same skill twice. You got to pick three different skills throughout the day. So, like the morning, beginning of the day, what are you doing, and what skill are you rolling to do that? Lunchtime, middle of the day, afternoon time, again, what are you doing? What skill are you rolling to do that? And then finally, at the end of the day, evening time, nighttime, what are you doing? What skill are you rolling to do that? And we started off in the morning and the morning time, and I went through each one. I said, okay, tell me, what is it you're doing? What skill? And they explain and they roll, and then I kind of decide, okay, how well did that go? And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get them to a point, right? And we actually had two crit 20s in these rolls. I think it was Ponvi and maybe Mari who rolled a crit 20 as they were doing some insight stuff. So those roles and those activities kind of led them to a bar where Ponvi goes and fights. Even Mari, the dwarven cleric, had a reason to go there. One of her people that she was tending to in her medical room, her medical section, was severely beaten by a mobster, more so than probably he deserved. So she wants to go investigate. So she winds up there. Lynn, our kobold, loan sharker type person, she hears of some guy who got beat up by one of the mobsters, so she wants to go check it out. And it happens to be at the same bar that Ponvi's going to go do a fight. So, boom, we got all three player characters in one location. And that's when I introduced a scenario. Okay, now that you're all here, something's about to happen. And what that something was is a walking dead fisherman came out of the sea and started going on a rampage looking for supposedly the people who murdered him. He somehow came back as a walking dead and went on a quest for vengeance. Now, so the players had to deal with that, but it's not completely over. Even though they got involved, some guards got involved. The monster did get quote unquote taken down, but that scenario is far from over. Now we got to deal with the aftermath, and that's what I've been thinking about. For our next session, the aftermath of that scenario, and that kind of keeps the action going without me having to like throw a fishing line with a hook out there. Hey, take that, and trying to reel them into a location. And no, you're kind of doing what you want to do, and I'm going to fit what I want to do around that. Because I've already kind of figured out what the scenarios and the things that are going to happen, but it's really interesting to see how different people react to that stuff. Now, for new players who come in, gonna kind of do the same thing. Gonna get their character sheet set up, with the bump in abilities, the bump in gold and starting gold, and yeah, it's sort of the same thing. What is your normal day like? Tell me about your day. And then what they'll and for new players, there'll also be again established people in the town, people that people know, and they will have likely have heard about the dead fisherman coming up out of the water and going on a murder spree. All right, so where are we at on time? I think that's good. I think for next video, I'm going to be kind of getting into the development of this world. Now I don't have a world map. In fact, these two maps are the only maps I have at this point. My region map and my town map, because that's all I need. I don't need a world map at the moment. I kind of know what the world's about. I know who's in the world, like the different areas of the world. So I don't need a map for those yet. Now, if our players decided they're gonna, hey, let's go to Frostforge and check that out. Well, I'm gonna make a map for that. If they decide to get on a ship and travel south through the Shining Sea and see what lands are to the south, I'm going to need a map for that. But for now, I got them involved in enough stuff going on in town here that yeah, this is right now. These are all I need. Now I may actually come up with some inside maps, or like if they go into a building and things go down, then it'd be nice to have a map like a floor plan for that building. All right, friends. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with me, and while we talk about Dragon's Refuge, my new game, I'll put the link below. We got 3 spots open. Next session again is going to be dealing with the aftermath of the dead fisherman coming out of the water, plus getting any new players acclimated into the town. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out again, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you later.